In today's video, we will be going over every single motorcycle that I currently own. And there's over 30 of them. I think we're closer to 35 motorcycles currently in the collection, and only about a third of them are here today. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If this is your guys' first time on this channel, well, welcome. Make sure you go down and subscribe because clearly I have a lot of interesting bikes and there's a lot of interesting content to come and already on the channel. I attempted to make this video about 2 weeks ago and I was extremely sick. I took out every single bike that was running and riding, pulled them out of the garage, talked about them for a few minutes. Coming over to my list, the very first bike on it is my Honda NT650. If you guys watched the channel recently, you guys know I picked up a 1988 Honda NT650 Hawk GT, also known as the RC31. The RC31 is a 650 V-twin water-cooled motor, and it's a phenomenal machine. It's a bike that came a little bit too early. I said that it was a bike that Ducati took a lot of influence in, and a lot of people didn't understand what I meant. Some people who got it, but the people who didn't, they didn't. This is a modern day naked sport bike. People were comparing them to some of the vintage bikes in the past. Modern day is the key word. And if you don't understand what I mean still, well, I don't know what to tell you. The next bike on the list is my Honda CB750. I'm gonna go through all of the 750s that I own because there are a couple of them. The very first bike is my red CB750, my 1976 bike, which is standing back there. I love riding it. That bike has needed its carburetors tweaked and tuned ever since we bought it. The floats just aren't adjusted correctly. I think one's out of whack and it just dumps gasoline out of the overflow. So that's gonna have to be fixed before I can ride it more. I still do like to take it around the corners even though it does leak a little bit. Moving over, the bike standing next to it, you guys can see a little bit of orange there. That is a 1974 CB750. That's a bike my dad has bought over a decade ago. And we actually tried doing some work on the orange bike. Unfortunately, the problem is the bike's going to most likely need a new wiring harness. It seems like someone at some point has chopped and rechanged and spliced and it's a little messy and we can't trace back all of the wires. We were putting new handlebar switches in it because the starter button was gone and the turn signal button was gone. So we're like, we might as well just put some new handlebar buttons, but the bike's gonna need a new wiring harness. We'll probably go through the bike top to bottom. There's a debate that we're having. Do we take the bike all the way to full restoration or do we just leave it as is and fix all of the issues? We're putting a harness in it. We're basically down to the frame. We might as well clean the motor, paint the frame, paint the tank. Moving on to the third and final K model from the first generation is a 1972 Honda CB750K with original pipes. Those are the pipes that are sitting in my room. The frame is sitting in my room. The motor is sitting on the side. The bike is completely blown apart. Everything has been redone, repolished, re-chromed. The only thing that is left is to redo the motor and the bike is ready to go and ready to be assembled. I bought the bike completely taken apart. The guy had it and I wanted the pipes. But he's like, I have the whole bike ready to go. It's painted. It's just been sitting for years and I've never got the opportunity to put it back together. That bike, I don't know when I'm gonna put it back together. I bought it because I wanted the pipes. That was the main thing. I saw pipes and I'm like, you have the rest of the pipes. He said I have the whole bike. Moving on to the final first generation bike, it is a F model. I have a 1975 CB750 Super Sport, which is the F model. It was the first year that the Super Sport was introduced. They came in blue and orange. My bike is supposed to be blue. It's missing the original exhaust. It has the wrong rear wheel. It has the wrong seat on it. But the bike is fairly complete and it runs pretty good. Ever since then, we've got a couple of other bigger projects and I'm probably gonna be listing the bike for sale. As much as I hate to see it go, it's a bike I think it's gonna be listed for sale in the not too distant future. I also have a Generation 2, a 1981 CB750 with a dual overhead cam. That bike, the goal was to do a light resto mod on it. Restore it, bring it back to factory spec. That bike has some higher miles on it, but do a little bit of a cafe racer build, maybe put some nice clip-ons on it, maybe put a different front end on it. If you guys are interested in watching individual videos. I have individual videos, multiple videos on almost every single bike we're gonna talk about. Moving away from the 750s, I want to talk about the CX and Viragos I have, because I have one Virago that is a parts bike. I bought it for the wheels. I have one Virago that we're doing a cafe racer on, which is currently paused because we're trying to get some of the other bikes up and running. Then there's another Virago that's sitting right up there, which you guys can't see. That bike is going to be listed up for sale. Quickly to go over the Honda CXs I have 3 CXs. There's one CX there's one parts bike, and there's one that is a pretty decent project. The project one is most likely going to be listed up for sale, and the whole intention of owning a CX was to do a cafe racer like they did on the show. I think it looks incredibly sleek, incredible cafe racers, and they just look really good. Another bike I have is a CX 650, but it's technically not a CX, it is a GL 650. So it's the silver wing with a 650 motor. The 650s have a distinct tone difference from the 550s when you put an exhaust on it. There's a motorcycle channel called Racer TV, I believe, and he did a Honda CX 650, and it sounded so good that my dad and I looked at each other and were like, we should just build a 650 motor. The cafe racers are interesting. I think a lot of people ruin good bikes with cafe racers. The CX and the Virago are bikes that were made to be them. They do get complicated, the projects do get abandoned, they take a long time. I need to get some of these bikes maintained and small things taken care of before I dig into some major project that I'm modifying and chopping and this and that. Moving on to the next bike, I have a Buell. I have a 2009 Buell XP12R. My dad bought that bike brand new. It is the only bike to this day that we have bought brand new. In 2008, 2009, the financial crisis was hitting hard in the US, and Harley Davidson decided to can Buell as a brand. They weren't selling all too well, and they did deep discounts, and my dad took advantage of that and bought himself the Buell. The bike has about 4,000 miles on it currently. I ride it around, I have a lot of fun with it. Don't really see it going anywhere just because the prices have come down quite a bit. It is a pretty special machine. You never really see them, and it's an interesting part in the collection. It is also the only American bike in the collection. We have 2 GB500s. I picked one up earlier this year, and my dad has had one since the mid-90s. The GB is one of my favorite bikes to ride. It really reminds me of this Hawk right here. The Hawk reminds me of the GB with the riding style. This bike is a little bit bigger, but it's a lightweight single 500 thumper. It sounds good, it has good power responsiveness. It's just really a fantastic machine all the way around. I love the 2 bikes that I have, and I don't think I could sell either one of them anytime soon, or ever. We currently have 2 German machines. One is an older bike. We have a 1958 R69, which was actually a European import. Pre-60s R69s are very rare in the US, and there's not that many of them. The bike has a completely rebuilt motor. It just needs to have a little bit of a cosmetic refresh, new mufflers, carbs rebuilt, which it will get when I can find the mufflers. The other BMW that I have, other German bike, is a 2019 BMW R90 Racer. Technically a 1200, but it's like an 1175. It's a little short of a 1200. Plenty of power, air-cooled, vintage styling, but it's new. They didn't sell all too well. It has all the recipes of being a future classic. I adore the bike. It's fun to ride. It's amazing to look at. We do have a few British bikes in the collection. We have 2 vintage BSAs. I have a 1953 BSA Golden Flash. It's a 650 parallel twin. That bike is black. I think originally they came in 3 colors, gold, black, and maroon. The bike runs, it does leak a little bit, and it's currently parked actually on display in a store. But there's a second one. Back over there in the corner, there's a 1951 BSA Golden Flash. Same bike, but that bike had been painted the wrong color. We're going to paint it gold, but unfortunately I am missing some parts from the bike. I don't have the original Smith battery, amp reader. I don't have the original Smith speedo in it either. Those parts at one point we did have. Throughout the years, things happen, and well, I no longer have possession of them. That is the same story with the 2 Triumphs I own. Yes, I have 2 Triumphs that I've never told you guys about. The one I have told you guys about is the T120. We have an early pre-unit Bonneville, and that bike, unfortunately, I'm missing a ton of parts for. I have the motor, I have the head for the motor, but I'm missing the carburetors. There's a tank that is sitting up there. There's a modified tank that the bike came with up there, but I'm missing quite a few parts. Throughout the years, at one point, that bike was semi-complete, and I no longer have possession of the parts for that machine. The bike that has the same story is the 1954 Triumph Thunderbird. Yes, we have a Thunderbird in the collection, and I've never shown or talked about it. So we don't really know what we want to do with the Thunderbird. The T120 is going to be like resto modded. The bike was modded to become a flat track racer actually, and go to the salt flats. Whether it made it to the salt flats or not, we're not sure. The bike has racing cams in it. They're period correct racing cams. We're gonna put the original tank back on, get a new seat for it, fix it up, get the motor running, leave the high lift cams in it, and kind of just enjoy it for what it is. I also have a 2003 Royal Enfield Bullet. That bike needs a little minor tweaking, a little bit of maintenance, and it's probably gonna go back on display. That bike, just like the BSA, was on display and a lot of people enjoyed looking at it. It needs its clutch adjusted, the stock carb put back on. We modified it, put an aftermarket carb and a BSA Gold Star exhaust, and the bike never ran right. I might have said that was the last British bike. There is one more. I've been hiding it. Never talked about it. We own a 1954 Ariel Square 4. That bike is currently getting restored. It's been getting restored for 2 years. I was supposed to get it back last year, parts delays, whatever, but I should be getting that bike back extremely soon. Talking about the bike that's right behind me, a bike that you guys haven't seen in a few months, is my Yamaha XS650. That's a 1975. I currently have the carbs torn apart. One of the carbs, the bowl of the carburetor, let me just show you actually. So the jets of the carb are actually in the bowl, and it's hard to see, but the jets have permanently fused themselves to the bottom of this bowl. So I'm trying to get a new carburetor or trying to get a new bowl, new jets for the right carburetor. You guys can see the CBX in the corner. We got the bike started. We're going to pull the carburetors off. We're going to try to get the tank resealed and all the rust out. Just haven't had time for it with everything going on. The bike next to this XS right here is a Honda CB400. That's probably going to be a winter project that we're gonna take apart and do a top to bottom refresh resto on it. That's kind of what I'm thinking. We might just do like a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then just get stage 1 done, which is get it running nicely, put some of the original parts. I'm already starting to source parts for it and whatnot, and hopefully we'll be able to ride it in the not too distant future, but I don't think it's going to be this summer. The bike next to the Hawk there is a 1975 GL. The bike right, you guys can't see it. The bike up there is also a 1975 GL. I've shown you guys both of those bikes. I bought that bike from a viewer. I bought that bike a few months ago. Both the bikes need minor maintenance. I actually got this bike to get up and running with a little bit of starting fluid. The other bike runs, but I think it needs its valves adjusted, timing done, carburetors like refreshed, and we're gonna be doing, hopefully this month, those things to both of the machines. When the XS650 and the CB404 came up from Texas, along with it came a 1993 Ducati 907IE. The 907 is a later version of the Ducati Passo. Passo was a racer who passed away, and they named the bike in his kind of memory. It's kind of a little bit of a weird oddball Ducati. It's interesting, still has an L-twin, but it has a wet clutch. We can't forget my only two-stroke that's currently in the US, my Hodaka Ace 90. Found out about Hodaka back in April, March, and I started looking for one. They're very hard to find, and I found this Ace 90. The Ace 90 is the first ever Hodaka to come out. If you're not familiar with the story, I'll link my video where we talk a little bit more about it. There's 2 more Hondas that I missed. I have a lot of Hondas, I know. I have a 1974 CB354. We think that bike was a glory blue-black bike, which is a very rare color, only made in 74. 4-cylinder, 350. The bike needs a ton of work, and it's one of those things that we have it, but I'm most likely gonna buy another one and use that one for parts, or do like a resto mod and bring the bike back to life because it had been sitting for 20 years underneath a tree. I told you guys I had another Sunrise Orange bike. I have a 1975 CB550. That bike has the original mufflers, only 7,000 original miles. We got the bike to fire, but it was misfiring. We're gonna have to go through the carbs again, unfortunately. It's just a little bit of a jetting issue, and it's not a whole carb rebuild because we did a major carb refresh, but we're gonna have to sync them up and do final tweaking. But that bike is also currently on display. It looks really good, and well, I've kind of just left it there ever since. We also have the CB450. The CB450, in the last episode, we did part 1 of the restoration, got the bike running again. Part 2, potentially coming soon. Part 2 is just going to be me riding the bike, getting it rideable, and seeing everything that it needs. But if I can get it running and riding, at least I know that it's in a stage that, you know, it's not degrading over time. The last bike that I want to talk about in this video is my Suzuki GS550. Right here, standing next to me, you guys can't really see it. You guys can see the tail sticking out. I have a 77 Suzuki GS550. We literally rode it in the last video. I saved it for last because it's a fantastic machine, but it is going to be listed for sale. In order to justify buying other bikes, I need to sell some bikes right now because there's a couple of bikes I've really been looking forward to owning, and well, I may or may not have bought one of those bikes a couple of days ago that I'm not gonna show you guys in this video. The goal by the end of summer is to have all these bikes kind of up, running, and the bikes that aren't, to either sell them, if they're not the longer projects, and if they're not done, they're going to be sold for other bikes in the future. I guess the question some of you might be asking is, why do I have so many bikes? Well, content, but also I just enjoy collecting, riding, and enjoying different things, and the way that I buy and kind of trade between some bikes, I can justify it. Next Friday, you guys will see the new bike I bought, and it's going to be the most impressive bike I've bought to this day. Stay excited for that. Some bikes are leaving, and more bikes will definitely be coming. I'll catch you in the next video.